are some wedding rules over on the subreddit of wedding shaming that we're gonna need to talk about for just a minute, okay? Hi, if you're new here, my name is Jamie Wolfer. I'm an actual wedding planner. I'm also your online wedding planner to help you kind of like crack the code on how to plan this whole thing. Let's just say with 4,400 upvotes and 825 comments, we gotta dig into this one just a little bit. So without further ado, let's just jump right on into what has been dubbed Bridezilla wedding rules, okay? Rule number 1, this is blank and blank's big day, not yours. I feel like if that's up for debate, we got bigger problems. Rule number 2, do not get in the photographer's way. Listen, I don't necessarily disagree with this as a general concept, but I'm here to tell you that a majority of the guests will never intentionally get in a photographer's way. Usually it's an accident, or they're just not paying attention, right? Or they're just so excited by the moment that they accidentally step in front of the photographer, and then it's the photographer's job to go, hey, I'm so sorry you're in my shot. Would you mind scooting over for me? Right? Like we shouldn't need to make this a rule. 1, because most people aren't gonna do it anyways, and 2, because your photographer, if they're a professional, are gonna be the person to be like, hey, you're in my shot. Please move. But I guess we can make it a rule if we want to get passive aggressive about it. Rule number 3, the attire is black and or gold, not red, blue, green, and definitely no white. I feel like there's another way that we could have phrased dress code colors, because plenty of people have dress codes or color-specific dress codes for their event without sounding like this and without so many caps. Rule number 4, do not rearrange seats. We have a seating chart for a reason. Okay, class, please sit down. Roll will be called, and we will make sure you are all in your designated seats as soon as the reception starts. If not, you will be relocated or removed. Listen, most people are not going to rearrange their seats, right? Like, if you're given a specific seat to sit in, or if you're given a plated meal, most guests are, like, aware enough to know that this is going on. I feel like a lot of these rules are speaking to a small percentage of people, right? And I'm not really concerned about that. Like, I never have to tell guests, hey, don't rearrange your seats. Those words have never come out of my mouth as a wedding planner, right? So while I appreciate that you are specifically concerned about this, I don't think that this needs to be said at all. Number 5, if you didn't put out any money for the wedding, keep your should've, could've, would've to yourself. Your opinion is irrelevant. I'm proud of you for setting boundaries, but you don't have to sound so rude about it. Listen, this is not something that we frequently see on wedding days either, where people are coming up, you should have done this instead. Now, leading up to the wedding, sure, so many opinions, right? This is a boundary that you need to lay out way ahead of your wedding day, but it's not going to be something rampant that you're dealing with, right? Again, we're probably talking about a very small percentage of people, or maybe this was written for 1 person, or maybe 2 people, but like, it's so prevalent that we have to tell an entire body of 150 people that they can't behave in this manner? Probably not. Instead, it sounds like you need to have a specific conversation with whomever you're concerned is going to come up and say this kind of thing before your wedding day. But like, these rules actually kind of frustrate me. Okay, number 6, pace yourself when drinking. I feel like so many of these are like obvious and we don't have to say them out loud. Right? And again, it feels like maybe we are specifically concerned about a handful of persons. But when we're saying this to a group of grown adults who are coming to attend your event, you are basically, by making this a part of the rules, you are assuming they don't know this already. That's what this feels like. We're assuming they don't know any of these rules already. And it feels patronizing. Number 7, no big announcements or proposals. The fact that we're on rule number 7, first of all, is just wild. Don't worry, there are 15, so we're still going. And this one I get, okay? People do not want big announcements or proposals at their event. If you are so concerned that this is gonna happen, I can understand, like, this might be one of the rules, along with the dress code, that I get needing to say out loud if you are concerned about anyone doing this. But more often than not, what we tend to see is people kind of like will ask for permission first. Of course, if it comes out of nowhere, you can't have this planned, but this is assuming that most of your guests are not going to behave themselves, that most of your guests need to be warned, like, hey, you're not allowed to make this day about you. That refers back to rule number 1, right? When instead, perhaps maybe a few dedicated conversations beforehand instead of this passive-aggressive tell everyone the rules approach could mitigate a lot of these issues a lot more effectively. But also on the flip side, sometimes people just be making these announcements out of nowhere. And you want to make sure you get that information en masse out to the group ahead of time. I'm on the fence on this one. If you can't handle or dislike the music being played, simply go home. This is a celebration, not a funeral. That's sassy, okay? This is so passive aggressive. There is a wide range of music between celebration and funeral. And also, at funerals, it could also be considered a celebration of life. So I don't know what you are anticipating people being frustrated about, but I guarantee you they're not hoping for Bach or Beethoven, some of their somber numbers, to be piped over the speakers on your wedding day. They just might not like a bunch of profanity, right? To each his own. But the phrasing of this, in my opinion, is just really tacky. There are a bunch of other ways that you can make this same exact statement, especially if you want to get wildin' on the dance floor, right? And you want a bunch of people to be enjoying themselves. You're playing songs from your youth. They've got a couple of expletives being dropped. I can totally understand wanting to say something like, hey, at a certain point of the night, we're going to start playing, a lot more dancey type music that may not be suitable for younger and or older ears. So feel free to duck on out after the cake is being cut. That's normal etiquette, right? It's normal to play a lot more of the family appropriate music at the very beginning and then kind of shift later in the evening if you want to get a little bit more crazy with your music selection. But this, in my opinion, this phrasing is just not appropriate. And there's so many other ways that we can communicate that shift in the music style instead of just go home, okay? If you want a funeral, go be sad by yourself. Rule number 9. This is a taking over for the 99 2000s type of event, so there will be twerking. Cool. That's not a rule. That's just a statement, but good for you. Rule number 10. Use hashtag blah, 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 whatever it is, because blacked out was probably for the best, when posting pics. Cool. Just the fact that we're sending out rules. Like, I get wanting people to use the hashtag. A lot of people aren't going to use it, right? But if we're making it a rule, just even calling it rules, really, this is frustrating. Okay. Number 11, do not sit down all night. Okay, I get the spirit behind this one. I get that you want people up, you want them on the dance floor, you want them enjoying themselves. You don't want couch potatoes at your event. But this sounds snotty. You mean to tell me that you're going to tell your grandma that she can't sit down? She just got a new hip and she can't sit? I think they're trying to be funny with this. I think they're trying to encourage people to get onto the dance floor. I think that they're trying to make it fun and be like, yeah, let's party. Like, don't sit down all night. But given the context of all of these other rules and the tone and like how kind of patronizing and snotty they kind of sound like, not kind of, they do. I'm trying to hedge it so I don't sound as aggressive. I can't say on this list. It doesn't land well, like, there are other ways that we could phrase this. We really want you to enjoy the dance floor. It's going to be our favorite part of the evening. Please come join us, right? Instead of, don't sit down all night, all right? Rule number 12, no outside liquor. If caught, you will be escorted out. Yes, I get this. I totally agree. Now, again, this is assuming that a majority of your guests are going to be absolute morons. However, this is a big deal coming from, obviously, a professional in the field, and watching events almost get shut down because outside liquor or outside alcohol has been brought in. You could literally shut down a party like that. So I get where they're coming from. Again, phrasing, right? Could be very different. Number 13, refer back to rule number 1. What? Number 14, the bride and groom said what they said. Okay. Number 15, turn all the way up. Yeah, I mean, I certainly feel like going to a party after reading this list, right? I'm gonna give my thoughts on this before we jump into reading the comments, if I can gather them appropriately. I understand wanting people to behave a certain way or act a certain way, or you're concerned that things aren't gonna go well on your wedding day. My guess is you've read one too many Reddit threads of horror stories, because you've listed out possibly every single thing that might maybe go wrong on your wedding day and turn them into rules, and probably sent this out to all of your wedding guests. This, I think you were trying to be funny. I think you're trying to be coy and a little silly, a little sarcastic with it, but I don't think that landed at all. And this probably should have been proofread beforehand for a multitude of reasons, spelling and tone. The connotation of a lot of the words that this couple chose were negative. And I don't know about you, but after reading this, I don't feel like twerking. I can't twerk anyways, but I definitely don't feel like doing that after reading this, because I'm like, oh my gosh, what if I'm going to do something to make them mad that they didn't include on this list? Because please refer back to number 14. The bride and groom said what they said. What if I missed what they said? Okay? Because now you've set up a structure where I thought I'd be a good guest. I thought I'd be fine. In fact, I thought I'd have a great time. And now I'm concerned if you are going out of your way to say all of these obvious rules, what other rules could I possibly overstep that I didn't hear that you said? All right, let's read the comments. First comment, I feel like all of these could be rewritten to not sound like an a-hole. Yes. Or like remove some of them. Most of them. All of them. Yeah, none of the rules are that bad. I wouldn't say none of them are that bad, but I get where you're coming from. But it's weird that some of them have to be said. Who are you inviting to your wedding that you have to tell them not complain about your wedding? And some could be said much more polite and fun. 100% agree. Connotation and tone is a lot, people, and so is spell check. Yeah, the majority of these are basic wedding wisdom anyway, just phrased aggressively. Trying to dictate what colors I'm wearing or whether I can sit down for a few minutes? Yeah, no thanks. But for the rest of this, it's common sense, and a guest who violated it would catch side eyes and judgment. Yes, this is normal social decorum at events. But in their defense, I don't think they're saying you can't sit down for a few minutes. I think they are trying to say the reverse of this, of like, please be on the dance floor, please be present, like, please enjoy this with us. But they sound like a butthead. That's a mom swear word for you. Is my opinion vis-a-vis typos irrelevant as well? Hey, refer to Rule 14. They said what they said, dang it. Pointing out typos is a flagrant violation of Rule 5. Cousin Jack will be escorting you out. Leave your registry gift on the table. Yeah. 99 and irrelevant are working me up big time. What kind of list is this? Too chaotic for me. It's funny because, in my opinion, a lot of these rules are what I'd usually assume, to the point that I would never ever expect anyone to send them out. Exactly. They probably could have worded them more politely and been okay. But there's also a few that are just red flags, guaranteed, bridezilla/groomzilla stuff. It's a mix of obnoxious/condescending and OMG, look how I'm so fun and crazy. This comment wins. Is it toxic that I kind of like the list? A lot of the list is just common courtesy. Don't get in the way of the photographers. Don't make a wedding about you. Don't get sloppy drunk. Follow the seating chart. I'm guessing this is mostly addressing problematic relatives. And the no outside liquor thing is probably a venue rule. The only thing I think is even a little problematic is being so strict on the dress code, but honestly, who doesn't have something black they can wear? At least it's a staple color with the cut, fabric, and design of your choice instead of a green velvet sweater with orange suede pants and Louboutin heels for a beach wedding. What? That's something to unpack. Most of the list is okay in my book. I like the list. Again, I understand where you're coming from. On some, I'm not conceding to all of these because some of this is just silly. I mean, many of these things are just be a human who can function in public. If people on a guest list need to be told some of this, well, that's part of why I got married at City Hall. But as an adult person possessed of basic human decency, I'm rolling my eyes if this is a message to all the guests. I mean, none of these rules and expectations are particularly unreasonable, but they're just worded hella aggressively. But then again, the couple know their own friends and family better than any of us. That's a great point. And they very well may be the type of crowd that needs rules stated very bluntly and clearly to understand that they're not just loose suggestions. Sorry, Grandma, you guts to go. You've been sitting there for an hour now. Honestly, the dress code is enough for me to politely decline. I don't mind the dress code. I get it. It's totally fine. I don't mind suggestions as far as cocktail wear, Sunday best, etc., but I'm not buying a new wardrobe for a wedding. You probably have something black. We don't need to be dramatic in the response. You're fine, but it's okay. Especially if I never wear one of the only two colors allowed. I get that. That makes sense. Right. If I get invited to this wedding and it's not someone beloved to me, I'm thinking the guest list has more than its fair share of human disasters on it. I will send a nice gift and stay home. I completely agree. If I read this list and I'm like, if they felt the need to send this out, I'm concerned I might not be enjoying myself at this event, given the fact that they have to remind people of some of these basic human decency, social behavior, etiquette things. Is this their strategy for lowering their head count? This list gives me anxiety. Also, twerking and turning all the way up or whatever is inconsistent with the concept of pacing when drinking. I don't know what's expected of me. I hate these people. Whatever you do, just do not sit down. Oh no. Okay. Oh. Did they print this out and send it with the invitations? This is insane. If your guests suck so much that they have to be told not to wear white or propose, maybe you need better friends. The drinking/music selection could be communicated to the vendors and staff and be handled by them. But these are your guests. Maybe don't reprimand them like naughty children before any life-ending offense is committed. God forbid the wrong song gets played or somebody doesn't sit in the seat assigned by the bridal overlords. The only thing that makes weddings fun is people cutting loose a little more than usual and the stories after. Nobody would ever attend just to sit through the ceremony, eat mediocre catered food while sitting through endless speeches, wear uncomfortable formal wear for hours, and spend hundreds on gifts and lodging if they weren't allowed to party after. There would be 2 to 5 people showing up max. If you just wanted a fancy photo shoot with a $10,000 dress, well, okay. Just do that without torturing the rest of us. There is no such thing as a perfect day. How about just make sure everyone has fun and try to enjoy it yourself too? Okay, there's a lot of really good points in this. You guys, I understand this fear that like weddings are gonna go wrong, that guests are going to be acting a fool, that they're not gonna behave appropriately. My guess is if you sat with this at the end of the day and you have these concerns, it's probably like a person or 2 people. And that's where I'm going to encourage you to, me trying to correct my connotation and tone before it comes out of my mouth, be the bigger person and put on your best britches and go to them and have this conversation directly with them. I know some of us don't like confrontation, right? But this now makes you look kind of like a punk to your entire guest list instead of having a conversation with the 1, 2, 3, 5 people that concern you. I get some families are toxic. I get some families are unhealthy. So if you don't want to go out and have these conversations, you're uncomfortable, it's just, this confrontation is not your vibe, I'm still going to encourage you to try to go through and try to do that because it's going to be the best way to kind of negate problems before they even become problems at your wedding day. But if having those conversations, it's just not going to work, or there's too many people to have that conversation with, which again, a lot of this is common basic decency and basic human etiquette, so I highly doubt it's going to be so many people that you can't have conversations with them, but what do I know, right? I've only been doing this for almost 10 years. It's fine. Maybe just send the list to those people. Be like, hey, I just figured, send this over to you. Here are our expectations. Let's change the phrasing a little bit. Expectations for the wedding day. And then maybe have someone proofread it so you don't sound like a punk. And we can communicate these in a different way. So then when rule number 15 comes into requirement of turning all the way up, not all of us are so ticked off that we can actually join you in the twerking. Okay, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure they meant well. All right. I'm sure they weren't trying to be rude. I'm hoping they weren't trying to be rude. But if you feel so inclined that you need to send out a list of all these different rules to your guests, there are a lot better ways to do it. And have someone else read it beforehand, before you send it out. Because unless you're using a tactic like this to really slim down your guest list, I highly recommend not this approach. Wow, I think this is my first wedding shaming post. What do we think? What a riot. God bless Reddit and the stuff it collects over there. A fascinating peek into humanity, these Reddit threads are, for sure. If you haven't done so already, jump on down there, hit that like button, and subscribe to this channel for more tips and tricks for the modern day bride who does not want to be rude to all of their guests using condescending and patronizing rules. Just kidding. If you want to use those rules, you can still subscribe. Okay. And until next week, bye guys!